is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
Hello and welcome to the 67th edition of the Coach's Corner Roundtable on the Hoopheads podcast. Each episode of the Coach's Corner Roundtable will feature our all-star lineup of guests answering a single basketball question. A new Coach's Corner Roundtable will drop around the 15th of each month. July's Roundtable question is, what is the biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting? Our coaching lineup this month includes Dominic Amorosa from Strake Jesuit, Kamal Assaf from the Bishop School, Jake Boyd from Eureka College, Jerry Buckley from Bishop Kenny High School, Erik Buehler from Arapahoe High School, Joe Burke from Skidmore College, Joe Harris from Lake Chelan High School, Dave Hixon from Amherst College, Tim Jackson, the author of Understanding College Athletics Through the Eyes of College Athletes, Bob Krasancic from Menor High School, Dave McGrail from Penn State Altoona, Dan Miller from San Marcos High School, Don Showalter from USA Basketball, John Schulman from the University of Central Arkansas, and David Sloan from Bard College. Please enjoy this roundtable episode of the Hoopheads podcast. And once you're finished listening, please give the show a 5-star rating and review after you subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you're a basketball coach at any level, please check out our Hoopheads Coaching Mentorship Program. You'll get matched with one of our experienced head coaches and develop a relationship that will help take your coaching, your team, your program, and your mindset to another level. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HoopheadsPod for the latest updates on episodes, guests, and events from the Hoopheads Pod. Coach, do you have an old shooting machine sitting in your storage closet right now? If you do, our friends at Dr. Dish Basketball can help. Trade in your machine, any make or model, in any condition, even if it's a competitor's model, and get $4,000 off the Dr. Dish CT Plus, equipped with advanced stat tracking, competition-based training capabilities, and the industry's largest touchscreen. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Those are some great deals, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
Hi, this is Dave Hixon, Basketball Hall of Famer and former men's basketball head coach at Amherst College. And you're listening to the Hoopheads podcast.
Prepare like the pros with the all-new Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Fast Draw has been the #1 play diagramming software for coaches for years. You'll quickly see why Fast Model Sports has the most compelling and intuitive basketball software out there. For a limited time, Fast Model is offering Hoopheads listeners 15% off Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Just use the code HHP15 at checkout to grab your discount, and you'll be on your way to more efficient game prep and improved communication with your team. Fast Model also has new coaching content every week on its blog, plus play and drill diagrams on its playbank. Check out the links in the show notes for more. Fast Model Sports is the best in basketball. Let's hear from our panel about the biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting. Dominic Amorosa, Strake Jesuit College Prep in Houston, Texas.
This is Dominic Amorosa from Strake Jesuit in Houston, Texas. Biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting is levels. Everybody thinks they're Division I, but I think a lot of kids don't realize how good basketball is at D2, D3, NAIA, and even JUCO. So the biggest misconception is the lack of knowledge about the different levels of basketball and how talented kids are from all over the country and all different levels. Thank you.
Kamal Assaf from the Bishop School in La Jolla, California.
Good morning. My name is Kamal Assaf. I coach at the Bishop School in La Jolla, California, and I wanted to respond to the question about the biggest misconception that college basketball, high school basketball players have about college basketball. The biggest misconception would be that because they're getting recruited by whatever school has offered them admittance or shown interest, that they can play there. I think the hardest part for a high school player is to realize that whatever level, Division II, Division III, Division I, is not just one step above their high school, it's 4 or 5 or 6 steps, meaning that playing in college is really difficult. And even if you're coming from a big high school going to a small college, Division III, it's a big jump. And not every player's skills translate. Not every player's size and speed translate to that level. The second thing I would say is that the colleges are recruiting your type or prototype. So if you are a point guard between 5'11 and 6'2", that's probably someone who is going to play that position, and they'll have several of them. So a lot of times playing in college is about just waiting your turn and fighting to improve. And that's a much harder task for a lot of high school players who've been stars and haven't had a challenging road. I remember when I went to Division III UCSD, it was a real difficult undertaking because there were 3 guys who looked just like me ahead of me. And so it was more mental than physical in a sense. You had to spend more time. You had to really discipline yourself. And it was a challenge to move up because they just kept getting more and more people that were like you. That's kind of what they do, is they recruit the prototype. The last thing is just that I think high school players think that college is an extension of high school, and it's really not. It's a much greater commitment. In Division III, we used to practice sometimes twice a day over Christmas break. Division I, the hours are excessive. So I think that understanding that you have to love the game and you have to be able to put in hours that are uncommon and that you've never really done before means that you have to really devote yourself to improvement during the season and afterwards.
Jake Boyd from Eureka College.
This is Jake Boyd, assistant men's basketball coach with Eureka College in Eureka, Illinois. The biggest misconception in recruiting that I've run into recently is that if you're good enough, you'll be found. I'm sure that's probably true for top 100 guys or girls, but for us at the D3 level, with all the effect that portal and transfers have with us and our recruiting, I think the kids that do some legwork in marketing themselves and showcasing their abilities have a better time finding a home, especially at the smaller school level, given their limited resources. Players that reach out to us or post their film and schedules really aids our ability as coaches to find those guys and give them a legitimate look in the sea of talent and the parity in that talent that exists right now in the game. Hopefully that's a helpful tidbit for prospective college athletes and their families. Thanks for having me, guys.
Jerry Buckley, Bishop Kenny High School, Jacksonville, Florida.
Hi, this is Jerry Buckley from Bishop Kenny talking about misconceptions in recruiting. I think probably one of the biggest ones I would say for high school players looking at the college level will be how much college coaches worry about scoring, or at least how it translates to them on the college level. Obviously, if you're a really good player in high school, there's going to be some ways you naturally score. But if you look at most college rosters, somewhere between 3 and 5 guys are averaging double figures. So that means probably over half of your team is not. And there's a lot of other things, obviously, that go into winning. Defense, rebounding, taking care of the basketball, assists, all those different things. So we used to go down to University of Florida for team camp when Billy Donovan was there, and they used to have a sign that just said 95% on the wall. And that represented that 95% of the time during the game, you do not have the ball in your hands. So again, they're trying to emphasize how are you impacting winning without scoring. So I think for high school kids to understand that most of them, their role on the college team will not be necessarily scoring. So understanding there's so many other things that go into impacting winning and what college coaches are looking for.
Erik Buehler, Arapahoe High School, Centennial, Colorado.
Hey, what's going on, Hoop Heads? This is Erik Buehler, assistant coach at Arapahoe High School here in Colorado. And this month we were asked, what is the biggest misconception that players have when it comes to recruiting? First of all, love this question. I think it's going to be a great one for a lot of hoopers out there to listen to, because I know all the coaches on here have a lot more experience in this world than I do. But that being said, I do have a little information I think that I can share just with former players and current players, and just talking with college coaches and friends that are college coaches that can help them out in this situation. I think the biggest misconception out there that high school players have is that they think they can be passive in their recruiting and they will get recruited. And what I mean by that is they think they can just show up to AAU tournaments or showcases and they will get noticed. It's a flooded market out there, and it's even more so flooded now with the transfer portal for high school kids. And to get noticed, you have to be probably not aggressive, but you need to be very active in promoting yourself. And that's not just your highlight tape on social media. That's going out and scouting colleges and coaching staffs that you want to play at and play for, and being active in sharing game film from the season, not just from the summer, of yourself, highlighting things that you know are good attributes about yourself, whether it's your GPA, your test scores, quotes from your coach, sharing your coach's information, like people that can advocate in your behalf on who you are as a person, a player, as a student, and then going and reaching out to those programs and letting them know where you're playing and when you're playing, so that if they have the ability to come see you, they can come watch you. But always keeping them up and updated on what you're doing and how you're playing, not just getting caught up in stats and like highlights. I think that's another thing that you could talk about in this conversation as well. But like actually going out, finding the school that you want to be at, promoting yourself to them, being active in conversations with those coaches, and if they are taking interest, to remain connected with those coaching staffs. I think that gives you your best chance. And it's not easy. It adds to your plate. But if you really want to play at the next level, I think for the majority of kids that aren't in the D1 level, the D2 level, you got to go out and reach out to the smaller schools and connect with those staffs all over the country, not just in your region or in your area. That's all I got this month. Thanks for having me on again, guys, and I look forward to the next one. Have a good day.
Joe Burke, Skidmore College.
I think this is a great question, Mike, and to be honest with you, I think the picture has gotten cloudier and cloudier each year with the rule changes. I'll kind of focus on two in my experiences at all three levels, that players, no matter how good you think you are or how strong you think you are, your body is not ready for that first year. That's a huge adjustment. You got to prep as hard as you can and hope that you're ready physically. And usually that's what it comes down to the kids that play as freshmen, who physically can handle the grind and the length of the season. Very, very important. Second thing I'd say is, and this is a recruiting thing that I've always talked about with kids, especially early in the process, is get your applications in, man. Like, especially if you're a fringe D2, D1 guy, and hopefully you're getting good direction and not ruling out D3s. I know having experience at working at great academic schools, especially the D3 level, you got to get your applications in. You can't just assume that if you don't get what you want in April, that you're going to be able to turn around and go to a great academic school at the Division II or Division III level and play basketball. It just doesn't happen that easy. That process takes time, and you really set yourself back and set the coaches back, and you give yourself far fewer chances if those applications aren't in. So take the time, get the Common App done. If you have a couple D3s on your radar academically that are good and you're holding out, just make sure you get all your information in. And then if you circle back, or as you're going through the process, things will just be easier when it comes to decisions.
Joe Harris, Lake Chelan High School, Lake Chelan, Washington.
Hey, Hoopheads, this is Joe Harris from Chelan, Washington, with this month's roundtable question. asking us, what is the biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting? I believe it's critical that both parents and players understand that really only a small percentage of high school players actually play on collegiate teams, let alone receive a scholarship. A problem is that many people really don't understand the process and how difficult it is to play, whether it's at the NAIA, NCAA, or even the JUCO level. It's even more difficult, I believe, with the transfer portal and the current landscape of college sports. And many recruits are really driven by the goal of just being seen more than they are by being better. If you're a good player, again, I believe that you will be seen. And oftentimes it comes down to being better at the little things that stand out to programs. Some of these things you can work on like a skill. What kind of grades do you have? What's your attitude like regardless of circumstance? How's your body language? What's your energy and effort all the time, whether you're on the court or off? What are there issues? These are some things that I think will help set you apart in the recruiting process, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with you this evening.
Dave Hixon, Basketball Hall of Famer from Amherst College.
Hey, Hoopheads, Dave Hixon here, retired Amherst College. The question being, what's the biggest misconception that kids have about being recruited in college basketball? And I think that's just basically understanding the level of the recruitment. And I think that, when kids get an introductory letter that's a form letter, some kids take that to mean they're being recruited full out. And that's too bad. And then, when a coach calls you and talks to you, again, coaches vary on how much they put out there, how much they have to put out there to recruit kids. But, for the most part, at least through my experiences, is that, kids get involved much quicker very often than a coach does. And, the problem is as a coach, you have to be talking to 25, 30, whatever it is, kids. And you might have your top 10, but even then it's a 10 or a 5. And maybe you're only going to take 3, or maybe you're only going to take 4. And so, I think what kids misinterpret a lot is the level of recruitment that's being put forward and just how much the coach wants them. And I know parents get confused in it as well. And sometimes that's the problem with the kids' understanding, is that the parents, don't understand, and they get the kid more hopeful than most. So anyway, that's what I think. Hope you're all having a great summer.
Hey, coaches, we know you're invested in the next generation of athletes. So why not give them the star treatment this season with Game Changer? Introducing Game Changer, a free app that provides you with data to make strategic coaching decisions and to deliver memorable moments to your team and its fans. Engage your players, empower your coaching decisions, and give parents the thrill of watching every play unfold in real time this season. Download Game Changer now on iOS or Android. Game Changer equips your team with the tools they need to succeed. Download it today and make this season one for the books. Game Changer. Stream, score, connect. Learn more at gc.com/hoopheads. That's gc.com/hoopheads. Tim Jackson, author of Understanding College Athletics Through the Eyes of College Athletes.
This is Tim Jackson, author of Understanding College Athletics Through the Eyes of College Athletes. This month's roundtable question, what is the biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting? I have 4. The number one misconception is that Division I is the end-all, be-all. In other words, if I don't go to Division I, I'm a failure. The truth is that nearly 4% of boys and girls go on to play at any level collegiately. The second misconception is that parents should not be involved in the recruiting process. I think it's important that students, athletes be the focus, but parents need to be supportive and provide guidance and encouragement without overstepping the boundaries. The third misconception is you can meet with a Division I coach on an unofficial campus visit at any time. Again, this is incorrect. There are stricter rules, and colleges are limited to the number of visits you can have, and the coach and contacting a coach is not always allowed during this time. So make sure, athletes, you know exactly when you are permitted to talk with and meet with coaches. And finally, it's a small misconception, but a lot of players think that if they receive mail from a college, that mail means that they're being recruited. I think a lot of family members get letters from college, but it's sometimes a marketing ploy by the school and not by the basketball team.
Bob Krasancic, Mentor High School, Mentor, Ohio.
Coach K, Mentor High School. Biggest misconception high school players have about college recruiting is they think it's mostly about offense, shooting, scoring, where college coaches really, I believe, look at defense, definitely hustle. Character comes into play, and that's obvious in just watching body language. I think passing is definitely something that's looked at. Just overall skills of the game. Best of luck.
David McGrail from Penn State, Altoona.
What's going on, Hoopheads Nation? Coach David McGrail, Penn State, Altoona, back at you with this month's roundtable. And the question this month is, what is the biggest misconception that high school players have about college basketball recruiting? Well, you know, that could take up a whole episode itself, right? The biggest thing that I think is a misconception for the youth out there today, not only high school players, but their parents, is just a misconception of it's D1 or bust. That's a mentality that I really think hurts a lot of student athletes with their ability to explore different options, to be a college basketball player. You know, the biggest thing for our student athletes that we talk about is you're coming to college to get a degree. Very few players are going to play professionally. That's just the reality of it. Very few players are going to get full rides. That's just the reality of it. I think the misconception that going D2, D3, NAIA, whatever it may be, some of the other smaller levels, or not as popular levels, I should say, aren't worth your time. There is nothing that's more damaging to a young kid when people that they trust and listen to tell them not to look at offers or listen to coaches unless they're D1. I think that's the biggest misconception out there right now. Most of us are going to college to get a degree to help us for our future after basketball. So you can get a great degree at any school, D2, D3, NAIA, whatever it may be, and that's what you're looking for. Obviously, cost and obviously location and things of that do hold some families back. But I think that if you give certain schools and institutions an honest attempt, I think you'll see that some of the schools that aren't D1 can also provide your son or daughter with a great experience, both athletically, but most importantly, academically. So again, I think the biggest misconception right now for high school players is, it's a D1 or bust mentality. And I think that just needs to be, talked about more, and giving these young student athletes more of a, open mind when it comes to their college search. All right, guys, thank you. Hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to the kids coming back. Talk to y'all soon.
Dan Miller, San Marcos High School in San Marcos, Texas.
I believe there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to high school recruiting. I think one of the big ones is the kids think that they're going to be recruited at this early age, freshman, sophomore, even junior year, in their AAU tournaments, and they might be playing 16 or 15U and thinking, where are the college coaches? Because their AAU coach told them that they would be there watching them, when in reality, the only people that are being recruited at that level, or at that age, I should say, are the McDonald's All-American types, and there's, probably 25 or 30 of them in every class. Just grinding, I think, is the best advice if you want to be recruited to play college basketball all the way through high school, and then your senior year. That's when you're going to get in front of probably coaches that are really looking at you. And the reality is probably most of those coaches and players are going to be Division III, and it's still high-level basketball. But I think the main misconception there is just be patient. Don't think everything is going to happen quickly. And if you're meant to play college basketball, it's going to happen.
Don Showalter, USA Basketball.
Hi, Don Showalter here from USA Basketball. What's the biggest misconception high school players have about college recruiting? Well, I think the first thing is, they receive a letter and they think they're being recruited. And that's a huge misconception, because thousands and thousands of players receive the letters, and that really means nothing. I think after that, if they receive a letter, they should turn in their information sheet, obviously, to the college to let them know that their college is of interest to them as a player. But really, they're not being recruited until, the coach will give them a call, wanting to know more about them and their career, and then maybe invite them on campus for a visit on their own time. They're really not being recruited until they get an invitation to visit the campus at the college expense, and then that's not even guaranteed a scholarship until, of course, after that. So I think the biggest misconception is the fact that think they're getting recruited when they get a letter or even a phone call from that school. I think the second biggest misconception that high school players have is, if they're fairly well skilled and a college coach sees them play and makes a comment or suggestion to them, that they're being watched closely. College coaches watch so many players and so many kids playing basketball that you really have to be a standout to be noticed. Thank you.
John Schulman from the University of Central Arkansas.
Yes, this is John Schulman, head basketball coach at the University of Central Arkansas, and question of the month. So we're the biggest misconception, I guess, from high school players dealing with college basketball recruiting. I would say two things. Number one, I would say here comes a college coach, and I'm at a big AAU game or a high school game, and I got a bunch of coaches there, and I'm going to show them what I can do. I think that's probably the number one problem. Just be who you are. If college coaches are at that AAU game or that high school game, then you've probably done enough already. Just be who you are. I think kids think they got to score, and got to show this and got to show that. You can hurt yourself. You can look selfish. You can hurt yourself by showing them what you can't do instead of what you can do. So my advice would just be you. Dominate the game, impact the game, how you impact the game. If it's impacted the game, passing the ball, just keep doing that. If you impacted the game defensively, keep doing that. You just can't be a great defender and then all of a sudden a bunch of college coaches are coming and then you take it and jack it. What if you are not a great shooter and ended up having a tough night? Then you're not going to get recruited, period. So I would think keep the things that you don't do well a secret and do what you do well. The other thing is, and it's hard, and we get a lot of emails about kids that are 20, 27 and 28 and 26, and we're in survival right now on just trying to fill our 24 class. And so I think probably a misconception is that we're working maybe we were 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years ago. But right now it's a little bit more difficult to work on your 2025 class or even 2026 class when you're trying to finish up your 2024 class. Things are different. Back in the day, another misconception is back in the day, if you weren't getting recruited in the summer previous to your senior year, God, you were toast. Now that's not the case. If you didn't have an offer by January, you were toast. That's not the case. So there's a lot of negatives in recruiting right now, but there's also a lot of positives. But patience is needed. Remember, this is the last year of COVID. So I heard a number, almost 50% of all college basketball players after this year are done. So there's going to be more opportunities for high school kids. So hang in there, and I hope this helps. And just be you, because everyone else is taken. And have a great year, and everybody have a great rest of the summer. Thanks.
John Schulman from the University of Central Arkansas.
Yes, this is John Schulman, head basketball coach at the University of Central Arkansas, and question of the month. So we're the biggest misconception, I guess, from high school players dealing with college basketball recruiting. I would say two things. Number one, I would say here comes a college coach, and I'm at a big AAU game or a high school game, and I got a bunch of coaches there, and I'm going to show them what I can do. I think that's probably the number one problem. Just be who you are. If college coaches are at that AAU game or that high school game, then you've probably done enough already. Just be who you are. I think kids think they got to score, and got to show this and got to show that. You can hurt yourself. You can look selfish. You can hurt yourself by showing them what you can't do instead of what you can do. So my advice would just be you. Dominate the game, impact the game, how you impact the game. If it's impacted the game, passing the ball, just keep doing that. If you impacted the game defensively, keep doing that. You just can't be a great defender and then all of a sudden a bunch of college coaches are coming and then you take it and jack it. What if you are not a great shooter and ended up having a tough night? Then you're not going to get recruited, period. So I would think keep the things that you don't do well a secret and do what you do well. The other thing is, and it's hard, and we get a lot of emails about kids that are 20, 27 and 28 and 26, and we're in survival right now on just trying to fill our 24 class. And so I think probably a misconception is that we're working maybe we were 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years ago. But right now it's a little bit more difficult to work on your 2025 class or even 2026 class when you're trying to finish up your 2024 class. Things are different. Back in the day, another misconception is back in the day, if you weren't getting recruited in the summer previous to your senior year, God, you were toast. Now that's not the case. If you didn't have an offer by January, you were toast. That's not the case. So there's a lot of negatives in recruiting right now, but there's also a lot of positives. But patience is needed. Remember, this is the last year of COVID. So I heard a number, almost 50% of all college basketball players after this year are done. So there's going to be more opportunities for high school kids. So hang in there, and I hope this helps. And just be you, because everyone else is taken. And have a great year, and everybody have a great rest of the summer. Thanks.
David Sloan from Bard College.
By far, the biggest misconception that players have about college coaches and recruiting is that we immediately and only look for players that can score the basketball. It's just not true. Yes, in today's game, you have to be a threat and you have to be able to score. But as we're at events, as we're watching, we want to see and find players that understand the game, that can make the right pass, make the right decision, that don't need the ball in their hands and they don't need to score to affect the game. We talk all the time, there's only one player that can be the leading scorer or leading shot taker, right? And so we're looking for players that have a wider skill set and that understand and are self-aware enough to know how they fit and know how they can impact winning beyond shooting the basketball.
Thanks for checking out this month's Hoopheads Podcast Roundtable. We'll be back next month with another question for our all-star lineup of coaches. Your first impression is everything when applying for a new coaching job. A professional coaching portfolio is the tool that highlights your coaching achievements and philosophies, and most of all, helps separate you and your abilities from the other applicants. The Coaching Portfolio Guide is an instructional, membership-based website that helps you develop a personalized portfolio. Each section of the Portfolio Guide provides detailed instructions on how to organize your portfolio in a professional manner. The guide also provides sample documents for each section of your portfolio that you can copy, modify, and add to your personal portfolio. As a Hoopheads Pod listener, you can get your Coaching Portfolio Guide for just $25. Visit coachingportfolioguide.com/hoopheads to learn more.
Thanks for listening to the Hoopheads Podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.